Hello and thank you for joining us on the midweek edition of Journalists Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozugbakun. Today on the program, Keyamo lawmakers clash over planned 774,000 new jobs, vows to quit if politicians hijack job slots. Buratai charges troop to take battle to bandits' door. Governor Akeredolu orders his cabinet, close aides and others to do COVID-19 tests as Delta governor and wife test positive for coronavirus. And later on the show, Journalists Hangout Midweek Special features pains of transport companies during the lockdown and prospects after lifting the ban on interstate movement. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, while Sam Ibemere will join us via Skype. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for joining us. Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus Keyamo, is on collision course with members of the National Assembly at a meeting in Abuja between the minister and members of the Senate Committee on Labour on the modalities for creating the planned 774,000 new jobs. Tempers flared, leading to a shouting match. Keyamo, who left the meeting after he was permitted, vowed to quit if politicians hijack his job slots. Here is the report by TVC correspondent Tijesu Adoye.
Business here. So, Honorable Minister, you are not exceptional. We have many ministers who came.
An interactive session to understand the modalities surrounding the Special Public Works Program under the National Directorate of Employment turns rowdy. Trouble started when there was a disparity in the explanation of the Director General of the NDE and the Minister of State on Labour and Employment. The NDE had gotten the approval of Mr. President to employ 774,000 vulnerable Nigerians, 1,000 each from the 774 local government areas of the country. The National Assembly had also appropriated the sum of 52 billion naira in the 2020 budget to facilitate the program. But members of the committee were clearly not impressed with the implementation process so far due to a lack of synergy between the Ministry of Labour and the NDE. What was supposed to be an interactive session turned into a shouting spree when lawmakers demanded explanations for how the Ministry of Labour and Employment constituted a 20-man committee that has already been inaugurated to facilitate the process.
How the Honourable Minister came about the 20-month election. The remaining 12, he didn't know about it. And as the representative of our own people, our main aim is to check the executive arm of government for checks and balances. And what he said, 8 ministries have been mandated to look into it. We are disagreeing with him.
Before we appropriate, we have the power to investigate. We have appropriated. What we are doing, just like the chairman has said, is we are investigating the implementation. And that power is given to, it's not owning ownership. In terms of that, we are doing that to be able to expose either there's corruption, there's inefficiency, or waste.
Members of the committee became furious with the minister's outburst and demanded an immediate apology. The minister refused to apologize for his behavior, insisting that he has done nothing outside the provisions of the country's constitution.
I must respond. What I have said is not illegal, it's constitutional. Because, see, it is unfair. The constitution talks about public hearing. So what I'm saying, what am I apologizing for? What am I apologizing for?
His threat to leave the meeting since he was denied the opportunity to respond to the allegations further aggravated the lawmakers who permitted him to take his leave.
Are you better than other ministers? Why are you not getting here before you become a minister?
It's a matter of public interest. You cannot make accusations and allow the cameras to go out. Okay. I want the cameras to be here from me. If not, I will not talk. I will not speak.
Babajide, grandstanding between the members of National Assembly and executive arm of government, that's Festus Keyamo. Now, let's break it down. When I investigated into what happened yesterday, does Keyamo have the power to determine the mood, maybe public or private, in the National Assembly when he is invited for a public hearing? He insisted that before he talks, the cameras should be here.
Yeah, he said they made the accusation in public, and so his response to those accusations should also be in public. That is, that's what he said. I don't think there is anything wrong about that. They should have allowed him to respond in public, since they made the accusation before TV cameras and all that. So, but at the same time, when you look at what's going on, Keyamo is no longer the human rights activist. He's a politician now.
Yes.
He's a politician now by choice. If he wants to continue,
he's no longer in the league of Femi Falana.
You know, if he wants to continue to behave like an activist, like Adeyanju and the rest of them, he can
go back to the trenches.
Tell the president that, look, let me go back to my first love. But you've chosen to be a politician. You made an attempt to be a senator. So you know how it is done. Someone was saying yesterday that he should have picked valuable lessons from Babatunde Raji Fashola, because he has had to face these people many times. And there's really no gain in having a shouting match with them. No, because at the end of the day, you do not gain anything.
What's your precious time?
You do not gain anything in doing that. And it is the Nigerian people that this project was designed for that will benefit. I want to see some of the, you see that it is well conceived in terms of what the government wants to achieve with the program. If we have more street sweepers,
1,000
if we have more people,
in 774
because I'm even talking about what they are going to be doing. Those guys will be responsible for clearing drains, and of course a lot of our public drains are filled up. So if we have more people desilting those drains, it's not such a bad idea. If we have more people cleaning up public infrastructure, public buildings, it's not a bad idea. So it's at the end of the day, when this whole thing is put in abeyance, it is the Nigerian people that is designed for that will suffer. In politics, you don't always talk about the position of the law. I was just laughing when I saw him quoting the law, this and that. No. If Mr. President simply wanted to look at what the law says, the steps that he took on the APC crisis, he would not have been able, because I'm telling you, those steps, he has no power
to do such.
To take those steps. And then the president had to say, those of you who have gone to court,
please
withdraw your case from court. Because the constitution of our country even permits anyone who feels wronged to seek redress in the court of law. And this same president last year, when some of the APC members decided to go to court over the primaries of the party, and Adams Oshomole said, no, anybody who goes to court will be expelled, will be summarily dismissed from the party. Mr. President said, no, allow people who feel wronged to go to court. So there are times when it's a political solution that you actually need, not quoting the law all the time. You see?
And you need to be diplomatic.
You have to. The truth is, he is a young politician now. He came into politics not long ago. But he also wants to be bigger in politics. And what he thinks these guys want to do, every politician will do it. If you have an opportunity from your area, maybe Loma or these people now, the traffic LASMA in Lagos. Yes. Some people call them LASMA. Those, if the LASMA in Lagos, if they want to employ 1,000 party leaders in Lagos,
they want to get slots.
They will tell them, oh yeah, bring from your, because you want to make those party leaders strong where they are. Relevant. So this is what these guys are doing. I agree that sometimes they can overdo things, but you have to agree that, okay, I'm not going to be able to give you people more than so slots. It happens. They are employing people into customs. The customs, okay, this is what we are giving National Assembly. It's a tradition. If you want to deny them the exercise of that, they will fight you. And there is no proof that even Keyamo himself will not try to bring in his own people. There's no proof until we except if he wants to deceive us. He too will bring in people.
I saw experienced politicians on that seat. People like Ibrahim Olori-Egbe, as in the one that displays.
Yes.
I saw him talking there. Sam, what do you make of this?
Well, I think that what we witnessed yesterday reflects the beauty of democracy, if you ask me. I like to see exchanges of this kind, and I think that is what differentiates military rule from democracy. So it is good to see our lawmakers query members of the executive. I think that is the beauty of it. People are allowed to ventilate. At the end of the day, we reach a consensus and agree on what is going to be in the best interest of our people. But like it's been argued, I think there is much more to this. I recall, the minister saying or alleging that in fact his ministry had already considered 15%. I overheard him on national television say that, and then you ask, if that is true, what more will these guys be asking for? I agree that we need to be very, very, sensitive to the minds of this nature, because politicians want to go back to their constituencies and brag about what they've been able to attract back home. And the issue of helping to, reduce the number of people on the unemployment queue is one critical element that we can't run away from. So it is true that they want to influence these things. They do it all over the place, okay? And I think that we need to be very careful the way issues of this nature are handled. I like the fact that politicians or lawmakers can look at members of the executive in the face and say, no, this is what we think has not been done right. This is the way it should be done. Give and take, and consensus agreements are reached, and then everybody is happy. But we want to be sure Nigerians are interested in transparency. So when Keyamo called for, the investigations to be done, before the camera, I can appreciate what he's talking about, because if the lawmakers don't have anything to hide, why ask that it should be done behind closed doors? Nigerians want to follow every bit of, issues raised concerning the employment of 774,000 Nigerians, and the amount of money that has been budgeted for this is huge. So we need to know. There's 52 billion. We need to know. How are we sure that the lawmakers who are screaming are not interested in, probably, if it is true that they have asked for 15%, let's imagine what 15% is. It probably wouldn't go into their pocket, but this is like, taking dividends of democracy, back home. We want transparency. Nigerians are not, asking for too much. We want to know how our resources are deployed, how they are located, and the equity, the fairness, applied in the distribution of these resources. So for me, I think that we need more of this. I like to see democracy in action. What I think happened yesterday was democracy in action. Rather than pull guns, it's good that they look themselves in the face, tell themselves the honest truths, and Nigerians are listening and appreciating that our democracy is evolving.
And just evolving to what Sam just said now, that our democracy is evolving. If you remember the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, as she was doing her school feeding program and was distributing 10,000, 20,000 naira to vulnerable Nigerians, members of the National Assembly also invited her to know how the scheme was going, what the yardstick that was used to actually go about this thing. And when I look at it critically, if I'm a lawmaker, I'm representing, let's say, Ondo State somewhere. I will also want to bring this employment. If it's 10 or 20, I can attract to my constituents. Is that corruption?
No, it's not. It's not. It's only when you're asking him to bring money that you can say, okay.
I want to attract good thing to my
Are they saying that the executive would not also try to take some of these things to their own people? Are they saying that won't happen?
Minister,
who does that? In our kind of country, if you are in that position, people will come to you. Where we are now, we are journalists where we work here. You know all kinds of pressures that we face. They think because they see us on TV, we have so much money.
Some people see ambushed us yesterday after the program.
Politicians go through this. I see politicians, I see so many people in front of their homes. Pressure, all kinds of pressures. People think that because you are a senator, you should be able to guarantee them employment.
Employment, yes.
There are pressures. There are pressures that people face.
It's not your purview.
People think that because you are a minister, you must be able to guarantee employment for them. All kinds of pressures. So the truth is, with that kind of situation, people will want to take any chance that is available to them. They want to grab any chance that is available with both hands.
Scrutinize what you are doing.
There is a need, a serious need to scrutinize what the ministers are doing. There is a serious need. The EFCC, as we speak now, in this administration, the EFCC has investigated people and found them to be corrupt. So how can I now say that, no, they should not look in their direction? Was an head of service not investigated by EFCC, and the president said, go ahead and put her on trial. So it's not everything that the executive does that is good enough or that should not be investigated. They need to investigate them. So I'm happy that they have asked him to explain what is going on. And he has to explain. But the point that they are making is that what he said was not in tandem with what the public servant heading that agency or government said.
NDA.
Yes. So there's no need to grandstand. You are grandstanding now, you people will still come together and achieve a common ground. That is what is called politics. This is not activism. Nigerians bother themselves so much about emotions. I am not impressed about this.
The showmanship does not...
No, it has to end. The moment you get into government, it has to end. These people, you will still lobby them.
Yes, now.
When you are coming up with your budget, you will lobby them.
Even to be confirmed as a minister.
You lobby them. You need them someday. Look at the Controller General of Customs, who came up with one funny idea that even vehicles that have been bought for years, that they should be stopping those vehicles on the road and forcing them to pay duty. Duty on a car that you probably bought 10 years ago. It was the Senate that said, no way. It was the Senate that stopped it. So it's not every time that these lawmakers will just sit down because they harm so much. We are not happy that they harm so much. Then we will be criticizing them. No, there are some things that they do that is right.
All right. While bandits continue to ravage many states in the Northwest, a familiar but worn-out tone from the military hierarchy has rent the hair that the Chief of Army Staff, General Buratai, has charged troops to take the battle against armed banditry to the door of the bandits. We cannot say less. Sam. Well, Sam, we have problem in the northwest particularly, and northwest particularly, yes, and north central. Banditry and these people kidnapping and the rest. And the Chief of Army Staff is telling his men to just go and deal with them.
I think that our military, especially those who are leading them, are beginning to sound like broken records. I mean, are we just waking up to the reality that bandits, terrorists, kidnappers have taken over the entire northern region, asking that his men should go after these people, for me, is neither here nor there. The fact of this matter is that our response to the issue of insecurity, has been less than average, if you ask me, and that is just putting it, plain. I look back and I recall what our neighbors in Chad did, and we thought that our military was going to take full advantage, of what they had done, to root the bandits and the terrorists in the northeast and the northwest. But here we are, back to square one. Every day we see reports, of how our military is being, routed all over the place, how bandits are killing Nigerians as if lives don't matter in this part of the world. It's a shame, really, and so much has been committed into this war. We would like to see situations where our military are on the offensive, but what you get to hear every day, Ayo, is that our people have repelled. How long are we going to be repelling? It means that we are not taking advantage of the situation. Nothing. When we go back, we are playing defensive, and it doesn't help anybody. We hear about super camps and the rest of it, but those who live beyond the super camps are exposed daily to these terrorists, to these kidnappers. So the issue of our military chiefs asking that their men should go after these people is for me, is just it's not here nor there. We need to see action. We need to see action. People are being killed every day. We can't continue to shed blood. It's unacceptable, given the resources that were committed to this fight.
It's even very shameful that a state like Katsina State is under siege. The state where Mr. President comes from, and we see people from Katsina every day crying for help. Yes. This is not in any way to discredit the government of the day there, but the responsibility and those in charge of the military, those that can deal with them, security, solely belongs to the federal government. And Katsina is under siege. Zamfara is under siege. Part of Niger,
Kaduna is under siege. Kaduna is under siege. You know what someone said? He said, why can't Mr. President respond to the security challenges the way he responded to the crisis in the APC? That why can't he take such far-reaching action? People are telling you, the service chiefs, they've overstayed their welcome, they've been there for too long.
They're tired.
You are doing nothing about it, as if they should be there forever. Even if diminishing returns sets in.
They are not inspired again. They are not...
No form of challenge. They've given their best to their country. Yes. Nobody can say that the service chiefs have not done well.
No. But at the point in time, at that level...
It gets to a point that even you...
2 years, 3 years...
You can no longer self-motivate yourself anymore.
You're tired.
It
becomes normal.
Yes.
The attacks here, attack there.
Yeah,
to the chief of army staff now, when they are telling him that... military base was attacked, or
many of those things happen now that they are not even reported. In the northeast, many of those attacks happen and they don't get reported. Sometimes soldiers are kidnapped, taken away. Citizens are kidnapped. Nothing happens. People are killed. It will not even be reported. The army will not come out with any press statement saying, "Oh, this happened." Journalists too may not even be aware. For example, there was a bloody attack in the Damboa area some days back. They took away women. So a lot of these things are happening. We don't even get to read about them, except you have people not far away from the area. When you are talking about Mr. President's home state, Mr. President's in-law was kidnapped before our eyes. When he was praying, evening prayer, was doing evening prayer in Daura, like they went there, took the man away. It took some time before the kidnappers were arrested in Kaduna, in Kano, and the man was freed. Yes. So how much longer can this continue? Look at Faskari. Faskari, a town or a local government in Katsina State. Bandits made a habit of going there almost every day to kill people, take their things away. Now, some of them are selling their farmlands. They say, look, we don't want to live here again. They are selling their, at giveaway price, they are selling their farmlands. When you talk about IDPs, go to Katsina and see IDPs. You think you are in the Northeast. Because not less than 12 local governments are under siege from bandits. And we watched people dying. We sent special forces of the Air Force to the area. It didn't stop them from killing people. So what are we going to do? In Niger State, Rafi local government, Shiroro, all of those areas, they are killing people for fun. We've not been able to stop them. So the president has to ask himself that if these people cannot improve in terms of securing Nigeria, it's not just to make a statement or make a remark that, look,
buckle up.
No, he said it that from now on, excuses will not be tolerated. After I had the president to say that, I said, let me wait for 1 month. If things don't improve, what will he do? What we expect him to do is to take action, not simply to threaten them.
At this level, he's not warning them.
Don't warn them.
Thank you. You've
let them see.
Done their best.
Let them see action. Let them see action. That's a philosopher who said, don't show the enemy your plan. Let him see the result. So this is what should happen. Let's not waste time. In Sokoto, in Kebbi, in Katsina, in Kaduna, our people are being killed far too much. It has to stop.
Sam. Hello, Sam.
I can hear you clearly.
Yes. Do you have any point of departure?
Not at all, Ayo. The point has been raised severally. I mean, when the traditional ruler from the president's own domain begins to compare what is happening at the moment to what obtained in the course of Nigeria's civil war, then it tells you that we have a very big crisis on our hands. Do you understand? We all know what happened during the Civil War. And if people who are on ground in the Northeast, in the Northwest are beginning to draw comparisons between what happened in 1966 and what is happening now, then it tells you that we should not just be mounting change. We should mean it. We should walk the talk. The buck rests on the president's table. He's the commander-in-chief. That's the truth. That's the truth. So if
Governor Akeredolu orders his cabinet, close aides and others to do COVID-19 tests as Delta governor and wife test positive for coronavirus. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this time out. Welcome back. A stitch in time saves 9. So says the old adage. And Ondo State Governor Oluwarotimi Akeredolu is taking a cue from this. After testing positive for COVID-19, Governor Akeredolu has ordered members of his cabinet, close aides, and others to do COVID-19 tests to verify their status. Meanwhile, the governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, joins the growing list of state governors who tested positive for the contagion. His wife also tested positive. Babajide, it's you know why it's getting more alarming. If these are people that it will be reported, it will make headlines.
Yes.
So just imagine the ordinary folks per second, per minute.
They are dying.
They're even contacting unreported and they
unrecorded.
Some are even, they won't show any symptoms.
Yes. You don't have to show any symptoms.
And you spread the gospel.
In fact, it's the asymptomatic people who spread it the most because they are not convinced that anything is wrong with them. But they do have it.
I saw a video last week when Governor Akeredolu went to go and pick his nomination form. He was with some of his supporters.
Also assembly members.
And
he sneezed into his
palms.
Yes,
he was
into his palms.
He sneezed like twice. And those ones, nobody was.
One of them even raised that same
And
yes, that the governors sneezed into, raised it up. They were
nobody-
not wearing any mask.
No face mask.
You see, the thing is,
They were just praising him.
they were singing songs of praise and all that. You see, it's unfortunate that we are like this as a people. We are almost ungovernable. Things that are for our own benefit, we are told to do it. Our people are not ready. Use mask.
I laid back.
Avoid crowded places. Government are the same people came up with this thing, Government,
Yes.
but they are the same people who refuse to follow these simple protocols.
If you go to those states,
They are the same people. A lot of our leaders, I was speaking with one guy from Borno State. He said, Jide, this COVID-19 will change so many things about our people, that many of our very good leaders remain vulnerable because they refuse to adjust their lifestyle. If you are in the habit of holding court, receiving like 20 people, you sit down, all of them, they are coming, they are saying, Rankadede. You don't want to stop. You don't want to imagine that the times require that you put all of that aside. You still want to continue to do things the old way. Or probably you are under the illusion, like the governor in Kogi, that there is no COVID. Kogi ain't got COVID. Maybe that's how some of them are reasoning. But they are seeing their colleagues now. This is the sixth governor. Sixth governor. Okowa is the sixth governor to test positive. I saw the video that Peter of the whole Peace Square shot, where I was talking about his family, yes, and even their domestic staff testing positive. And he was almost shedding tears. His eyes were bloodshot, that we've been through hell.
Yes.
He was almost crying. And you see people sit back, funny people, saying that, no, it's a scam, it does not exist. Oh, it's been forced on us. Even if there is someone somewhere who should know better, but who does not know better, and is deceiving you, you have an obligation in your heart to decide to not follow that person. Yorubas will say, somebody go for work to Towobo, no, say what Towobo. You are being misled that, there is no COVID, and got COVID. And you are misled. You think that is right. Between June 1, in 30 days, let me just say in 30 days, we recorded 15,837 new cases and 317 deaths. That's to tell you the extent to which this thing is multiplying amongst our people. 317 deaths in 30 days. That is huge. But in a country where these days, that doesn't even look like something, a big deal anymore. Up to about 100 people can be killed in Maiduguri or one of the local governments. It will not even make big news. Whereas in another country, 20-something people will be killed, maybe in Sri Lanka or somewhere. The police boss there will resign and say, yes, I failed my country. Forgive me. He will still apologize and resign. Here, lives don't matter anymore to our people. And that's the same approach that we are seeing to COVID.
Sam, fortunately for Governor Patrick Okowa, I've seen documentaries, I've watched many programs, and as he was prepared for this, in terms of, I've seen pictures, videos of the isolation centers that they built in geopolitical zones around Delta State, and they even have a standard testing center in Delta State. So for Patrick Okowa, there's no cause for alarm. It's just a matter of utilizing the facility he has prepared for his people.
Well, you put it succinctly. There's no denying the fact that a lot of investment had gone into, preparing to manage and control, COVID-19 in Delta State. But it will be interesting to see how the governor and the immediate members of his family, respond to it. It will be interesting to see them isolated in those facilities. I have not seen any pictures. I have not seen any videos confirming that. Just like the man in Ondo who says he's staying at home and treating himself. The governor of Delta State, that's Okowa, is also likely to do that part. I don't recall any prominent Nigerian who has, made himself available at these facilities. And I think it raises some concerns, even for me. We want to see them lead. We've seen videos of how, the Prime Minister of Britain, publicly, took advantage of public healthcare system. And the day he left, he was celebrated all over the place. But we've not seen such examples here. I think what the Okowa issue and the rest of them, who are going through the experience, has come to show is that this pandemic is real. I think that is just what is coming, out of it. As at today, we have over 10 million people who have been infected, over 500,000 dead. So these figures are real, except those who want to live in denial, or if you like, in blissful ignorance. So what? I don't know.
When you look at the trend now, and you want to see government, even Lagos State government that has done so much, that's so overwhelmed now, they're getting overwhelmed. Those isolation centers might not be enough to contain Lagosians. People will be advised to stay at home to treat themselves.
They must come up with a new strategy. I don't think that people staying at home to take care of themselves is a solution. It depends on who that person is. Governors don't have to go to isolation centers. They can create a place for them within
government house. What they call government house is like a city,
a big place, and then you can treat you. We've seen the deputy governor here in this state tested positive for COVID, and they was taken good care of. Commissioners here in this state tested positive, and they were taken good care of. So it doesn't have to be in the isolation centers. When it becomes unbearable, then they have to head to those public health facilities. So the Lagos State should not relent. They are working with the private sector now to improve capacity. That's what they should be doing, because we have not reached anywhere. Because when you look at what the South Africans have done, you see that in Nigeria we have only just started.
Now to our Journalists Hangout Midweek Special for today. Today's episode features the pains of transport companies during the coronavirus lockdown and the prospect after lifting of the ban in interstate movement by the federal government, which came into effect today. Abiola Sholanke has the report.
The movement of humanity has been severely tested by the ravaging COVID-19 pandemic. In the last few months, cities have been grappling with how to contain the virus and keep humanity safe. As part of response to the pandemic, measures like social distancing and lockdown of affected areas were adopted. At a stage, the Nigerian government banned interstate movement and imposed curfew on affected states to curb the further spread of the virus. This came with some implications on mobility and connectivity among the people. This worsened the impacts of the pandemic, not just on health, but also on education and jobs. The buses parked here are usually out of the station, with passengers heading for various destinations. But due to the restrictions on interstate vehicular movement, they stayed idle here, while the owners lamented over accompanying loss of revenue. The ticket offices and spaces were also empty, unlike on normal days when they are usually filled with travelers who came for business. Road transport workers and owners were among the worst hit, as their means of livelihood were literally suspended.
Yes, it was a loss for everybody. Obviously, fixed costs. We still have to, maintain these vehicles even as it's down. A certain amount of days, You have to, keep warming the vehicles. People have to be paid because of security and cleaning and all these things. So no money coming in and expenses still going out.
A good transport system is essential to support economic growth and development. While the lockdown resulted in huge revenue losses in form of ticket sales and parking charges for the transport sector, other sectors of the economy similarly suffered. The impact on COVID-19 lockdown on transportation can also be assessed from the point of view of commuters. Road workers hiked transport fares, while shortage of means of transportation during lockdown made life hectic.
State government taxes, federal taxes, it's quite hard, on the transporters. It's a very tough business with very low margins, and now it's becoming even lower. As dollars increase, you know that almost everything that we use is basically imported. The whole vehicle is imported. So, and the naira costs not our cost to our customer. Our customers don't have enough money, and it's quite sensitive. They are price sensitive. So it's getting harder and harder.
Transporters blame this on different reasons. According to Jude Odom, an official of a transport company, it is important for governments to provide private transport bodies with intervention funds.
We are very disappointed that up till this point in time, we've not received anything from governments as regards intervention. We were hoping that by now, government would have sent something across to operators as intervention fund. So if we actually received this fund, it will go a long way in helping to reduce costs so that the commuters will not have to go through the hassle of paying so much, because we know that this period has been tough for everybody. People have not earned as much as they usually would earn. So putting 100% increase on our transport fare will not be fair on them. So we have to consider that. And we really hope that governments will see reasons and hasten, if they have any plans, hasten the plans of disbursing what's it called again? The intervention fund. If we don't have this bailout, a couple of companies might struggle financially and hence go under. Now imagine that happens. This would translate to people losing their jobs. Then that will be shooting up the index for unemployment rates, and this translates into crime.
They say observing restrictions and coming up with strategies to ensure that the virus does not spread beyond what is being witnessed in the country is also their concern.
Now, so imagine that in a regulated sector, mushroom companies like the ones we have currently, who are flouting or who have been flouting government laws and moving people during the lockdown. Imagine somebody had COVID, in the bus, and you don't have a manifest to do contact tracing. That's very, very dangerous, because you're putting the life of other people at risk. So this is why we're actually asking for government support to help. We've already done some work, like I mentioned, we have Pitona and APSCON, and within our circle, we've done some work. All we need is for government to improve on what we've done, And
before we even locked down, we already made sure that all the things to keep people safe, lives and property safe, were already put in place. So ensuring that we have enough stock of sanitizers for people coming in and out of the terminals, face masks with the infrared gun for the thermometer to check people's temperature, ensuring that there's enough, not more than a certain amount of people in a particular terminal. Also, we're even already reducing the amount of people in one particular vehicle, so that there's a bit of social distancing. Also pushing technology, to ensure that there's more online booking, so that we can actually try to control the crowd.
I like the situation of things now because of the social distance. But before, people jump together, but now we are carrying 5-5. That 5-5 is okay, because everybody with the price is 15,000. And before it's 10,000.
I know how much I made a day, even a week. But for 4 months now, I never go to work. and have been finding it very difficult. So I want state government or federal government to help the issue, because masses are suffering much over this lockdown issue.
As thousands of people continue to test positive for COVID-19 and millions expected to take preventive measures, keeping the transport system working is essential to defeating the pandemic. Abiola Sholanke, TVC News, Lagos.
Abiola Sholanke there. Well, Jide, now there's a tendency to underestimate the impacts of the COVID-19 restriction on each of these sectors.
Yes.
Yesterday I was talking about the tourism sector, that's the hotels, the big ones in Lagos.
Yes.
In the last 3 months, they're still under lock and key. And when you look at the loss, you just look at Eco Hotel and Suites, the kind of loss that
even event centers.
Event centers would have been killed. Now the employment, the people that are under, that are employed in that industry. Now we are talking about transport now.
Yes.
This report just gave me an insight how big that sector is.
Those guys, God is Good Motors, Chisco, all of them. The established ones. FJ, all of them. The established ones could not do what those small ones were doing. Moving people at night.
No name, they don't have
what
name.
The president said was move food items, fertilizers, things like essential items. But they were moving human beings. People were traveling.
And they don't have manifest to do contract tracing.
Yes, and they will also fill their buses to the brim, and in the process cause transmission of the disease on a very wicked scale. You see, these guys have sacrificed. Let's face it. When you look at how much they have lost during that period, since March, then it makes sense when the big ones amongst them are Gofre, God is good, when they are saying, government, come to our aid, assist us. Assistance is not simply to help those guys to become richer. It is to help them be able to continue the business so that they can pay their workers.
They said they were still maintaining
They need
those
to pay their workers. That's why Asiwaju said
running.
something that that we needed to help companies to sustain their payroll. You'll be able to pay their workers, because that is one of the most difficult things that people have faced during this period. And that was why the NSC chairman said that more than 2 million transport workers have been in distress. So that is a very critical sector. When you talk about tourism, you know that South Africa, they make so much money from tourism. People going to Kruger Park to see wildlife and all that. And what the South Africans have said is that they will not open their airports to international traffic until next year.
Wow.
Because yes, because South Africa is the worst affected country in Africa by COVID. So you can't blame them. But where government needs to come up with intervention funds to reflect the sector, to help the sector to survive, government must not hesitate to do that.
Sam, we can see how strategic this sector is.
Absolutely, Ayo. And the point has been made, but I have a concern. And that concern is that there seems to be a conspiracy, to hold down the transport sector. Why do I say so? I have listened to top government officials speak so glowingly on the need to support the airline industry. And this is an industry that has been supported in the past, and we can't see what became of those bailout funds. The facts are out there, how some of them swindled the country of massive sums of money. And you have a sector that moves most Nigerians.
Yes.
Most people who travel every day are the masses. Look at the percentage of those who travel by the airline that government officials are planning to support. I've listened to the Minister of Aviation. I've listened to the Deputy, I don't recall now, and all of them seem to be speaking in favor of the airline industry. And I think that it is wrong, absolutely wrong, for them to begin to consider the airline industry ahead of transport. They ought not to. If we look back in time, they ought not to. This is the time to support these industries, these companies that have committed so much, that have sacrificed so much in this time. 4 months is a very long time in the life of an establishment, and nobody's talking about them.
Thank you, Sam. If you have the misfortune of traveling 400 or 500 kilometers by road in Nigeria right now, you will think that we're at war.
So many soldiers, policemen on the road.
No, the infrastructure, how bad those roads are.
Oh, as if those roads have been bombed.
You think we're at war. Look, because the people that are meant to know, they don't travel by those roads.
They rather travel by road.
They will travel by air. That's why it's making so much noise for them.
Well, beyond the providing funds by way of bailout, government should also do something about our roads, because it's affecting the lifespan of those vehicles negatively. Then they import these vehicles from Brazil and other places. Those bad roads will ensure that they don't last. And they pass the burden on the ordinary people.
Time is up. Sam Ibemere, thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us. We hope after COVID you join us in the studio here.
Absolutely.
And Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, thank you for always being there. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can also watch Journalists Hangout on our platforms showing on the screen. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalists Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Ozugbakun. See you tomorrow, and God bless Nigeria.